Alright, hey guys, week 14 in the wraps. 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock Eastern time games are complete. I like to start with Bills-Chiefs. If you want to catch my breakdown of the Cowboys-Eagles for the Sunday night game, please catch my episode with Dylan on Thursday. So we'll get into Bills-Chiefs right now. And the Bills were very desperate in that game. They needed to win that game to still have a shot at the playoffs. So it was a big win for the Bills. They bump up to 7-6. As for the Chiefs, they let another one slip away from them. And I remember a time when the Chiefs would fall down, and we always thought they were going to come back. I remember a time from the Chiefs where, on the final drive, they got the ball. I always knew Mahomes was going to go down and score, and the Chiefs were going to win. That's not necessarily the case anymore with this Kansas City Chiefs in 2023. That Travis Kelce play was insane, where he flipped it back, and it was a touchdown. I was going crazy, but then it gets called back on a penalty by Kadarius Toney. So the wide receivers continue to kill the Kansas City Chiefs, and obviously they're a playoff team. I still think they're going to win their division, even though they split with the Broncos, and the Broncos are, I think, only a game behind them now. But I still think the Chiefs are going to win this division, but they might even be a one and done in the playoffs because they just don't have enough talent at wide receiver. Kelce had kind of a bounce. Kelce had a very nice game this game. It wasn't really Kelce. You were missing Pacheco too, and Pacheco's a huge part of that offense. He always gets things going on the ground. Although Edwards-Helaire I didn't think was terrible in this game. As for the Bills, look, James Cook had some big explosive plays in this game. He had a huge day, and the Buffalo Bills used to be too Josh Allen reliant, especially in the run game. Now they have a run game without Josh Allen. James Cook is very valuable to this offense, and it's important for him to take on a higher role as the season goes on, and he has. So the Bills, they're not out of it yet. They still have a shot. I think, right now they have the Browns, Steelers, Bengals ahead of them. Those are the three wild card teams right now for the AFC. So the Browns are 5 at 8-5. The Steelers are 6 or 7-6, and the Bengals are 7th at 7-6. And then you got the Colts at 7-6, the Texans at 7-6, the Broncos at 7-6, and then the Bills at 7-6. So they got a couple teams ahead of them. They got their work cut out for them. But out of all those teams listed, Josh Allen's the best quarterback out of all of them. So I trust them the most? I guess, but they also have a really tough schedule. But this was part of that tough schedule, and they got a huge win here. Next week they play Dallas. Look, they're going to need to win 3 out of the next 4 games to stay alive in the wild card race. I think nothing less than 10-7 will get you into the playoffs in the AFC. So they're 7-6. They need to win 3 out of their last 4, get to 10-7. Dallas is going to be tough next week. I think they're home, though. So, look, that's going to be a great game, too. This was a great game. Came down to the wire. And the Chiefs kind of had it, but mistakes, and that's going to cost you a game. And again, the Chiefs made some big mistakes in critical moments, and that's what cost them. And you saw Mahomes was furious immediately after the game, was livid. But that's just the way things go sometimes. That's just the way things go. This isn't the Chiefs' year. I mean, they've had enough years, so it's like, haven't they made 5 straight AFC Championship games? This might just finally be the one season that they don't make the AFC Championship game. I think it's finally coming to an end. I think the Ravens would beat them in the playoffs. I mean, they already beat Miami, but I don't know. I feel like right now with Miami, the defense is improving. I think Miami would beat them in the playoffs. So they're at least the third best team in the conference. I mean, that's best case scenario. So this is probably just in their year. Maybe they go and get a Mike Evans or even, dare I say, a Devontae Adams in the offseason. Or they draft another receiver. Rashee Rice had a nice game, though. But critical fumble. Critical moment. That's what I'm saying. Mistakes by the wide receivers. Although I like Rashee Rice. So the Bills are right in it, and the Chiefs, they're going to be in the playoffs, obviously, but how far will they really make it? We will find out. So let me get into the next game, Rams at Ravens, and this was probably the best game of this Sunday slate. Oh, there was back and forth, and Isaiah Likely's filling in really nicely for the injury of Mark Andrews. He had that long touchdown. I mean, he was wide open, but he's explosive. He's quick, and he's explosive, and he's going to make explosive plays. And Lamar spread the love around all around. Isaiah Likely got a touchdown, OBJ got a touchdown, Zay Flowers got a touchdown. He was spreading the love all around. He had over 300 passing yards, so big day from Lamar. Cooper Kupp finally started to get going for the Rams. He had over 100 yards, 8 catches, a touchdown. They really need that from Cooper Kupp. If they're going to make a playoff push, the Los Angeles Rams, then Cooper Kupp's going to have to be the sole focus of the offense. Not the sole focus, but the main focus, because Puka Nacua is only going to get you so far. Kyron Williams, another 100 rushing yard day. So he's very important to the offense, too. But it was just a great game all around. Towards the end of the game, Lamar had a clutch 3rd and 17 touchdown to Flowers in the final 2 minutes of the game. And then the Rams go right back down the field and tie it, and then go to overtime. And it was, look, back and forth. Not really many negatives for either team. It was a great game. They both fought it out to the very end. And the Rams are 6-7 now. Could they make the playoffs? Can they sneak into the playoffs? I think that they probably also have to win 3 out of their last 4 to get to 9-8. I think an 8-9 team might be able to sneak into the wild card, but to play on the safe side, let's stick with 9-8. So they're 6-7, and they need to win 3 out of their last 4. They play the Commanders next, then the Saints, then the Giants, then the 49ers. Other than the 49ers, who they did play close last time, those other 3 games are very winnable games. The Commanders, they're a joke. The Saints, they're definitely a joke. And the Giants, also a joke, but the Giants can play like competitive. But look, those games you should be able to win. So can they get to 9-8? I think they can win 3 out of their last 4. So if they can get to the playoffs, Sean McVay deserves consideration for Coach of the Year. I know DeMeco Ryans is probably the runaway candidate right now, although there is a lot of coaches that are overperforming right now with backup quarterbacks and such. And the Houston Texans had a huge loss today to the Jets, my New York Jets. But I still think that he's the front runner. But Sean McVay should really get consideration if they make the playoffs, because on that defense, other than Aaron Donald, do you really know anyone on that defense? We might after this season. These are all like rookies and young players, but they're all like later round picks. Not all of them, but most of them. So we might be hearing about these names later on the next season or the year after, because now they're making a name for themselves. But going into the season, we didn't know any of these guys. So many people had them winning 3-4 games, being one of the worst teams in the league. I saw like more of a 6-7, 8-win team, which is right about what they are now. Maybe they're a little better than that. They're definitely better than what I thought. And they definitely surprised me. As for the Ravens, they're the best team in the AFC. Like I said before, I know the Dolphins have the 1 seed technically right now. I'm not sure if it's switched since the Ravens win, but the Dolphins play on Monday. The Ravens are the best team in the AFC. This is the year for Lamar to finally get to that Super Bowl. He has everything kind of clicking around him. Even with the injury of Mark Andrews, it came at the perfect time. Not the perfect time, but this is the best time to have an injury to Mark Andrews. You're unique and awesome tight end, because you have all this wealth at wide receiver. You have Odell Beckham having another huge game, 50-yard touchdown, huge game for Odell, and he's really coming on. Zay Flowers is a young stud, and Rashad Bateman's been playing pretty nicely as the number 3 wide receiver. So Nelson Aguilar too, maybe he's the 3 or 4 or whatever. You got some wealth at wide receiver, and Lamar's making it happen. So the Ravens, this is their year, man. This is everyone's falling apart around them. Look, they should win the division. Maybe they'll get the 1 seed, and they gotta take it all the way this season. I mean, it might be tough once you get to the Super Bowl, because you gotta play maybe a Philadelphia or a San Francisco or maybe even a Dallas. But you're gonna be cruising to at least to the AFC Championship if you're Baltimore. So Seahawks-Niners, and look, Debo has been playing out of his mind the last couple of games. Debo's played out of his mind. Debo had a big game. McCaffrey had a big game. Ayuk had a big game. Kittle had a big game. All your stars came to play this game. Drew Lock didn't play terrible, don't get me wrong, but DK Metcalf was throwing a fit every 5 seconds, slamming his helmet on, the helmet warmer or whatever it was. Then he was grabbing Fred Warner's face mask. He's been getting very frustrated, and I understand. Seattle's kind of starting to falter here. They're 6-7 now, and obviously Geno Smith's better than Drew Lock, but I mean, if you really watched that game, you didn't see that much of a difference. There is a gap, but the gap isn't that big. They were both second-round picks. They're both busts as second-round picks, so there's a lot of similarities there. They have good arms. They both can kind of move. So it's not really that drastic of a drop-off when you go from Geno Smith to Drew Lock. So it was kind of a maybe you would have had maybe 3 more points, maybe another touchdown, but the results were the same, kind of, in a way. So it's not like Geno Smith would have led you to victory if he played. It's not like, if we had, even though he had a big game against Dallas, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't necessarily played San Francisco well, so it's not as drastic as you think. And the Seahawks are 6-7 now, and next week they play the Eagles. That might be a loss, so you might be looking at 6-8. Then they play the Titans, Steelers, and Cardinals. Those are all winnable games, so they could end up 9-8 as well. But just like I said before, the Rams could also end up 9-8, so the Rams would have the tiebreaker because the Rams beat them twice. I've been saying this for a few weeks now. That game that they had a few weeks ago was very critical to both those teams, and the Rams pulled it off. And I said maybe they were 4-6 at the time, the Rams, and I said, look, they could, if they end up, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but they end up in the hunt at the end. They're going to knock Seattle out. And here we are, and it's actually looking like it could be possible. For Seattle, it's not dead because, like I said, other than the Eagles games, those are all winnable games. But, it's not looking good for them because the wild card right now, obviously, Dallas is leading the way with the 5th seed. They're going to run away with the 5th seed, obviously. They might even win the division, but either Dallas or the Eagles are going to have that 5th seed. Minnesota has the 6th seed, even though they just benched Josh Dobbs. Not very confident about that, so they're 7-6. Green Bay 6-6 with the 7th seed. Now they're really playing really hot right now. And they play the Giants on Monday, so that's they should win that game. So I think the Packers probably will make the playoffs, and then there's the Rams at the 8th seed at 6-7. So the Rams can sneak into there. Then the Seahawks are right behind them at 9. 6-7 as well. And then you have the Falcons 6-7 and the Saints 6-7. So Seattle had a couple tough losses that kind of hurt them, and now they're looking up now. They're looking up at the Rams, they're looking up at the Packers, the Vikings. I could see them sneaking over the Vikings, maybe even the Packers. But now the Rams have the tiebreaker over them, so that really hurts them. So if I had to say right now, I would say who makes the wild card, the 6 and 7 seed. I would say probably I gotta go Green Bay, and I gotta go with the Rams. So because I think the Rams in Seattle are probably going to finish with the same record, and then boom, Rams have the tiebreaker. And Green Bay is just playing on fire. They have 4 or 5 young receivers that are just all studs. And Christian Watson's hurt, so he won't play Monday. But still, you have Romeo Doubs, you got that guy Reed. You have 2 tight ends you drafted too that are both playing critical roles, and Jordan Love's looking comfortable. So Green Bay has a lot to like right now, and they're playing out of their minds right now. Matt LaFleur, that's another guy that should maybe, if they get into the playoffs, Matt LaFleur should also have some whispers for Coach of the Year. I mean, there's so many different candidates that probably won't happen, but look out for that as well. Lions, Bears. Again, the Lions fold to another inferior team. I just don't think the Lions are good enough to be a Super Bowl contender. Jared Goff struggled in this game. Again, I mean, he was getting pressured a little bit, and he had 2 picks. And they did have some kind of running game, so that was a little surprising that Goff couldn't really get it going. But Justin Fields had some really good moments in this game. He does have a fumble issue. I mean, it is what it is at this point. He's a runner. He's going to fumble. Maybe he'll correct that eventually. But he had a great job getting that free play and having that offsides and then getting that touchdown to DJ Moore. That was huge in the 3rd quarter. And the Lions, look, I said a couple weeks ago that the Lions were better than, if the Lions and Dallas played, I would take the Lions, but I gotta say, I probably would take Dallas now, because at least Dallas beats inferior teams, and they crush them. They crush them. So Dallas is probably the 3rd best team in the NFC. We'll find out on this Sunday night game if they're the 2nd best team in the NFC, but I think they're 3rd. And then there's a big gap then the Detroit Lions. So the Detroit Lions are probably like a year away from actually being a legitimate Super Bowl contender and favorite, because it's just, the passing game did struggle in this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown couldn't really get going. The defense got gashed again. You're going to need some pieces on that defense, especially in the secondary, before you become a legitimate contender. So I do like Jared Goff, but when he falls behind and he starts getting pressured and teams know he's going to throw, he's going to struggle a little bit. So you need to be able to protect him. They had a good running game, so I don't want to say that they couldn't run the ball. It's just that they couldn't really get the passing game going. They were kind of behind the whole game, and he was forced to throw, and the Bears knew he was going to throw, and the Bears kind of teed off. And Chicago's defense has been playing a lot better lately. I will say that. They've been playing a lot better. Matt Eberflus has been kind of a better coach, even though this might be his last year as head coach. This might even be Justin Fields' last year with this team. So I don't know. Bears fans are probably torn right now. I'm sure a lot of them want to keep Justin Fields. I mean, there's a lot you like. He could run around. I think had 60 rushing yards. He had 2 total touchdowns in this game. He's productive. Definitely productive. And we see improvement. But isn't enough to give up the #1 overall pick, because the Panthers are probably going to finish with that. So are you going to, maybe you draft Marvin Harrison Jr., add another receiver with DJ Moore? That could be deadly. That could definitely be deadly. So the story more is less about Chicago in this game and more about the Lions. Like, they lost to the Packers, they lost to the Bears. They're losing to these NFC North teams that should be inferior to them. Then they almost lost to the Bears a couple of weeks ago too. So the Bears would have swept them, which is very odd, very, very odd. So the Lions, they need to add some pieces in the offseason, because this probably isn't their year. They probably do win a playoff game, but I see them getting knocked out in the divisional round. I don't think it's an NFC championship year for the Lions just yet. But hey, look, you're coming off years and years and years of disastrous losing. Trust me, I know. I'm a Jets fan, so you should be happy. You're what, 9-4, 9-5, whatever it is. So the Lions should really be looking forward to what they have. Their coach is a very smart guy. Hopefully you don't lose Ben Johnson in the offseason, which you probably are. So maybe you take a slight step back. I don't know. We have to see what happens. But the Lions, let me down once again. And I was pretty high on them lately. I just thought they proved me wrong in the beginning of the season when they were beating the Chiefs and they were beating some good teams. But then they got crushed. Ever since they got crushed by the Ravens, I kind of started to, I didn't freak out after that game, but I kept in the back of my head, okay, maybe they're not as good as I thought. And even each week it's been getting worse and worse and worse, kind of. Maybe they'll have one good week, but then they go 2 steps backwards. So a little worried about the Lions, not going to lie. Bucs Falcons, though, fighting for the NFC South. And look, it started off very slow offensively. But Desmond Ridder, again, critical mistakes and costing his team. You know, had an awful pick inside his own 20, and that led to a Bucs touchdown. That basically was the difference in this game, because it was a one-score game at the end of the day. So that cost them. That really cost them. And Desmond Ridder continues to do this. Yes, he had over 300 yards. Yes, Drake London had a big game. Yes, Kyle Pitts had some nice plays, too, had a touchdown. I know Desmond Ridder can be productive at times, but he's too mistake prone. He makes too many stupid interceptions. And I know that was his only pick of the game, but it was the most critical play of the game. And Baker didn't play great in this game either, but he had a great final drive, and that's all that mattered because he got the win. And there's a possibility the Bucs now can win this division. They're leading the division now. They're all tied at 6-7, the Bucs, the Falcons, and the Saints. So if they do win this division and they make the playoffs, do you bring Baker Mayfield back? Because you're going to be too good to have a high draft pick, and you're too bad to do anything like make a Super Bowl or anything. So, like, you're kind of stuck in purgatory right now, and Baker Mayfield has played good enough to, like, earn another season here. So maybe you draft someone in the mid to late first round or second round, and then have him ride behind Baker Mayfield, because Baker is a perfect bridge guy. He's obviously a top 32 quarterback in the league. I always, like, thought Baker is a good quarterback, or a not bad quarterback. I just never thought he was worth being a first overall pick. I think we all see that now. Like, he could be limited at times, and they usually, you know, Atlanta really struggled to run the ball this game, and the Bucs defense has really been stepping up, and that's because of Todd Bowles. He's a very smart defensive guy. He might not be a great head coach, but he's a good defensive guy, and he's going to come up with smart defensive schemes to stop offenses. So what do the Falcons do best? Run the ball with their two running backs, and what do the Bucs do? They stop the run game. And, like, Bijan Robinson didn't really get going. He had a touchdown, but didn't really get going. Algier didn't really get going. So that's really what stifled the Falcons the most. So good job by the Bucs. Good game plan on defense by Todd Bowles, and the NFC South shaping up exactly how we thought. 3 6-7 teams, and then one 10 team, 1 11 team. So a very ugly division, and it's the worst in the league, and we knew that coming in, and we know that still. So, all right, we got into the main games. Like I said, if you want to catch my Sunday night breakdown, catch my episode on Thursday with Dylan, and then we have 2 Monday night games, Giants, Packers, and Dolphins, Titans. Catch that on Thursday with Dylan. So, all right, guys, thank you. See you Thursday.